Hey mamas, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Donna and this is Creative Essential Mama, where we talk about everything homeschooling, homemaking, and a little bit of homesteading along the way. Today I am out in the garden for a mid-July garden tour. So this video, when you see it, isn't going to be out until August. But the reason I am filming this so early is because I have something very exciting coming in September. Very exciting. I can't wait to share it with you guys. So stay tuned. If you aren't already subscribed and you don't have that bell button clicked yet, make sure you do that so you don't miss it out. In September, I've got something very exciting happening. So I want to get some of my July and my August videos done as quickly as possible so that I have more time to devote to my September big surprise. So here we are, mid-July, and you're going to notice, you kind of see some of my garden in the background. My garden's a little different this year, and that's what this video is about. Let's take a quick walk through my garden, and then we're going to talk about why there's some odd things going on here. Okay, let me flip the camera around. Okay, so here is what we have called our onion and garlic bed before. The last 2 years, we've put onions and garlics. We've just filled this entire bed with onion and garlic, and they've done okay, other than we do have vole issues, which is why you see so much dirt sloughing and why there's holes all over the place. And this year, this bed is almost completely empty, other than there is, yes, a bunch of weeds I haven't gotten to yet. My son planted, at least I think this is what he planted and not another weed, but that is really the only thing in that whole entire bed. In this bed, which is actually my fourth row, I do have plenty of planted in here, but it's still not quite as full as it usually is. So my second son had planted something here. The voles got that. Don't remember which one that one was. And then I know the marigold was here. The voles took that. And bachelor buttons were there. They took that one as well. I'm drawing a blank on what this one is, but I'll put it down here at the bottom somewhere. And then those were started inside, so that's why they're a little bigger. This one here was a direct sow, and this one never came up, was also a direct sow. And then I have on this half here, it goes Swiss chard, kale, Swiss chard, kale, and then I had a volunteer kale as well. And those are pretty much all for the rabbits. These are actually calendula, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Pot marigolds, it's a generic name for that. So I'm letting them stay. They were from a wild flower mixture, and those are all volunteers. And on this other side, besides weeds, we have spinach that went bolted. Not really sure why it bolted. There's even one that pretty much bolted immediately. I don't know why. So I haven't been able to harvest anything off of this. They don't even really look that great of a spinach, but oh well. And then I did some romaine. And then I had another volunteer dill, but something ate it already. I just transplanted that yesterday. And then I sowed more seeds yesterday of, I think this one was more spinach. And then that one over there is more romaine, or I might have them flipped. I can't remember which one I did where. We'll find out when it comes up. And here we have our stand of corn. I don't know what this is called, but it's a variety of corn that is multicolored. As you can see, the stalks are multicolored when you go from one stalk to the next. And mid-July, I'm hoping that they're supposed to be for shorter seasons, be drought tolerant, be able to grow in nutrient deficient soils without too much problem. So hopefully that will be the case and we'll get some. And then going into the high tunnel on this whole side right here, I have, I think, 8 peppers, and these are all pepperoncinis. My husband really likes pickled pepperoncinis, so I planted 8 plants, and hopefully we'll get enough to pickle for him for a year out of those 8, or 2, depending on how fast he goes through them. We'll see. And then my oldest son loves tomatoes, so this is one of his tomato plants. This one is an Independence Day tomato. It is supposed to be very similar to a Roma, being a more meaty tomato. But they're much smaller. They're only like about that big. So he just pulled his first one off. But see, they're all about that size. So they're not very big. And this is his other one, which is a cherry tomato. And I don't see any. Oh, there's some right there. So there's some cherry tomatoes. And then I have 2 jalapeno pepper plants. And if you can't tell on the camera what all of that white and brown stuff is, that's eggshells to put some more calcium and stuff into the soil. And I also heard it will help with slugs and stuff. And everything in here, if you've noticed, has these cages. This is hardware cloth. I think that is 1/2-inch hardware cloth. So I made a little basket for every single one of my plants here. The tomatoes and the peppers. Each one got its own cage because of the voles. They love to eat all of my plants. So this year we invested in some hardware cloth and I made cages for each one. And those are my 2 Roma tomatoes. I did like 20 Roma tomato plants last year in the high tunnel and some pepper plants. And so I got all stocked up on everything tomato and preserved them all. And so this year we're just doing 2 plants for fresh eating. So, because my husband really likes to have pico de gallo fresh. So I'm hoping these 2 will be enough to do that. And yeah, so that is the high tunnel. And then coming out of the high tunnel, you'll notice this row here is my hoop row. So I can put tarp over it when I need to. There is only volunteers and 1 type of plant that I have, actually my boys planted. That one and that one. And that one down there are all cantaloupe. My kids love cantaloupe. And we had gotten a cantaloupe at the store. Everything else is weeds, grass mostly. There's the other cantaloupe, but they wanted to plant seeds, so I said sure, but just remember I don't have hardware cloth in this row yet, and so the voles will take it, and that's what they've already experienced. They lost so many of their flowers and other plants that they had planted due to a vole eating them. These are my volunteers. I had lots and lots of dill and cilantro volunteers this year. I've already harvested a bunch of them, like out of the walkway, because I need to weed that walkway still. It's my last walkway left that's really, really bad and needs to be cleared. So lots of volunteers. So I've been taking them in and drying them as I get to it. There's some more dill volunteers. You can kind of see it. So that one there and that different colored green right here, the closest to the camera. And that one's even got a little bit of a flower on it. Look at that. I don't know if my camera's gonna focus on that. It's not gonna focus. Anyway, so those are all volunteers, and then the rest I've got to take care of these weeds. Now down between my cattle panel rows, these two are narrow rows, but they go the full length of the garden. And as you can see, this side and this side for this section of it here is very bare. That is because there was green beans here, but the voles have eaten every last one of them. You can look, there's a hole, there's a hole. Every spot I planted has a hole, and then they haven't gotten to those two yet. That's a weed. And there's one left. This section here, from there all the way down to there, had at one point around 64, 65 plants. And now we're down to 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. There's 3 there. And this one's pretty much, oh, there's one more here. But see, they nibble off the bottom and eat the root. And then there's always a little hole here somewhere that they backfill. That's the one you can see right there. They always backfill those. And the same thing happened over here for this row, only they haven't gotten to all of them yet. This side had 67, I think. And we're down to like in the teens for how many is left, I think. I'd have to look at my numbers again. I tracked them this time to see how fast I lost them. But I went from somewhere around 130 in just that section of green beans to like 20 or 30. So I lost probably about 100 or so. I'd have to look at the numbers. I'll try to put those numbers down below. It's not that critical, but that way I give you an accurate number, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm dealing with. So here we have sunflowers. There's my other bigger sunflowers. And I planted like, I don't know, 4 here, and one's doing good. There's another one there that's not doing so great. And then over here, I think I planted, I don't know, 7, but I got 4 that came up. And then over here, got another volunteer dill. Dill, I love dill. And my beautiful marigold. I planted marigold all up and down here on this side of the walkway and on this side of the walkway, and none of those came up. This one and one other one came up, but this one got 8 already. So that was a little frustrating. I've never had them go after marigold before, and that's the second marigold out of the garden that they've eaten. There's only one left. So for this section, you can see, let me back up so you can get an overview. Okay, so this row here up to the archway and this side here are all cucumbers. These are all pickling cucumbers. Our family just loves pickles, and we go through relish, dill relish, like crazy. So I'm trying to stock up on pickles and relish, And I'm hoping that the 50 or so plants that are in here, I have to recount, it's really close to 50, will give us enough to preserve and make enough pickles for a year or a year and a half or something. So last year we didn't get any for pickling or for canning. I got just enough to do like 1 or 2 quart jars of refrigerator pickles. So got lots of flowers. And then on the archway, and as you can see this here, I made wire baskets, this hardware cloth, the same 1/2-inch stuff, and each section between the T-posts, from that T-post to that T-post, is one real long basket that I put in. And I did that for this whole back section. So all the cucumbers are protected. Although I planted one there. I had a volunteer transplant. And it just got ate off. See that? Look at that. It been nipped right off. That one was not dug in and eaten from the bottom. It was ate from the top. That's a little frustrating. I transplanted that yesterday. So I'm still dealing with that, but most of my cucumbers are doing really good. I've already got maybe, I think, 6 so far that I've put in their saltwater brine. So here is where I have the archway. I still have those baskets between each T-post. That's where everything's planted. And then the archway goes up, so the green beans have a place to climb. So far, none of these have been eaten on, or at least not by voles. Now I do have one empty spot, but this spot I just planted. Why does this look so dry? Oh, it's wet underneath. Yeah. I did some direct sow for more to see if I could get some more to grow in, because this ended up being there. I didn't want it to be so late for direct sow because we have such a short growing season here in North Idaho. But that is what it is. So we'll see if they give us any. I'm hoping the reason I planted so many green beans was because we love green beans, and I want to be able to can enough for a whole year. And last time I only did like half as many, and I only got like a dozen quart jars. So that made it a little bit more. That wasn't, enough for a full year. So that is the garden. Unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to get very many green beans this year, just because they have eaten way more green beans than they have ever eaten in the past. Okay, here we are in the back of the garden. This is where I have my berries. This patch over here that has a lot of wood chips in it is my blueberries. This one right here is my hula berries that I have in a track, and there's hardware cloth underneath it. These are strawberries, hardware cloth under the tire as well. And then this is another tire that is waiting to get done, because over in this mess here is more hula berries, and in the very back here there is some raspberries in there. They're very small, but they are there, and this year they are actually producing. I have my first fruits on there. So why did I cut back on my garden this year? And that's what this video is more about. Yes, it's fun to get a garden tour, see what people do. I chose to cut back on my garden because last year I cut back quite a bit and it wasn't enough. I had just had a baby in February, and I thought I could do it, but I was so exhausted from, you know, round the clock feedings and all of that. So that made it difficult. And having a baby to take care of, you can't get out and garden as much as you want to. And so that made it a little bit more difficult. This year, she's one. She's almost 1.5 now. And I have a really hard time getting out here. She's toddling around, so it's really difficult to bring her out. She's getting into everything, getting hurt. She's still unsteady on her feet. And during the day, it's just too hot to do anything. That's why I'm out here in the evening. Sorry, my arm's getting tired of holding the camera. So with a toddler and just so much going on, I was getting overwhelmed and I needed to take a step back. So I even stepped back from some of the ministries at my church. I also shrunk my garden way down, knowing that I would be able to eventually add those back in. I can, you know, make my garden bigger in a couple of years. I can, you know, do more ministry at church in a couple years. But, or, you know, as soon as things get a little bit easier here, get a flow going here with having a toddler, and then my 2 older boys are doing school. So learning how to work through that and what's going to work for our family. And I at first had a really hard time doing that. I had to really reassure myself, because I'm like, but these are all good things. I need to do them. But I'm having such a hard time doing them. I really don't want to give them up. So I had to really pray and, you know, I'm asking for God's help on being able to let go of these things. I realized, you know, it is okay. Everybody's going to be fine. And this way I'm doing fewer things, but I'm doing them better. I just wanted to encourage you ladies, you mamas, you don't have to do it all. And even if you took on too much, it's okay to pass off a few plates to somebody else. Let somebody else handle it for a while. Work on doing less and doing better, because you aren't going to be able to do it better if you're already overwhelmed and you've got too much going on. Then you're not going to get better at it. It's just going to run you into the ground. So hand off a few plates, however you can, wherever you can, and then get better at those things that you kept. Get better at those. Then once you find your new balance, then try adding something. Like next year, I'll probably keep the garden a little smaller, or still small. Mainly it's just however much I can get hardware cloth under so that I can protect my vegetables from the stinking voles. Hang in there, mama. You can do this. You've got this. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. My garden has some I can't even talk. Peculiar. I can't even say it.